covering how to verify that an XML sitemap is being generated properly through Magento admin. So for this particular demonstration, we're going to be using our demo site, which we'll see here is using the Luma theme. And first thing we want to do is get a username and password. That's always crucial to making edits. So once you have a username and password and you have completed all the necessary steps of going through multi-factor authentication, we'll be at the dashboard ready to make updates. For this particular item, we want to first start off by going to Stores and going to Configuration. We'll be looking at the catalog. We want to click on XML Sitemap. And what we're doing here is we're verifying that an XML sitemap is being generated on a regular basis. So you want to go to generation settings and make sure this is set to enabled. Review everything else. This looks good. Frequency daily. You can enter an email address for the error recipient. The rest of these settings can be adjusted as well. Typically, we would want to have our robots text file within our XML sitemap. So we'd also want to uncheck this setting and click this and say yes. Sitemap file limits are usually fine within Magento standard configuration. We typically don't want any more than 50,000 URLs, and they have that set here per sitemap. Store options. This is typically fine how it's set up. And this is just verifying that our content pages, our product pages, and category pages are all going to make their way into the sitemap. So we're doing some configuration settings here, with the most important one being that it's being generated every day on a dynamic basis so that as a client updates categories and products, this file is updated accordingly. So we're going to hit Save Config. Typically, this is going to present us with the option to clear the cache so that these changes can take effect. So see here, let it finish doing its thing. Actually, we didn't change anything on here, so we might have to clear cache. So that's looking good. Oh, yes, we do. So let's open this up. Cache management. I typically control click and open it up in another window. Otherwise, you'll lose your space. If you have to come back here and make any edits, I find it much easier to control click, open it in another window, flush cache. Then this window's open at any time if you need to flush the cache, which we will be doing periodically as we make these changes. So as it stands right now, we have updated the XML sitemap generation settings. We made sure it's generated on a daily basis and that all the configurations are what they should be, including the robots text file, which should be included at the bottom of the sitemap. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually take a look at the sitemap URL itself and generate a new one if we have to. So by doing that, we're going to go to Marketing, go to Sitemap. We can see there's one here. Now, since this is our demo site, I'm going to use it as demonstration purposes. So I'm going to hit Add Sitemap. Now, typically, you're going to be presented with these two options, file name and path. We typically want the file name to be sitemap.xml. Now, depending on how the store is set up, you might be able just to leave this blank, but for some stores, you might need to use the media folder, like this, in order for it to work. Other sites require this to say pub. Depending on how it's set up, they can differ from site to site. The preferred way we'd want this to show up would be their domain.com/sitemap.xml. So if at all possible, it'd be great if we could just leave this empty or just with the slash so that it doesn't have any extra folders in the URL. So let's hit save and generate. So as we can see here, it did put the pub within that link. So even though I have this backslash. So let's just verify that this works. Ultimately, this is okay because we want to connect this to Google Search Console so that it can be crawled. So as long as Google Search Console has the proper URL, whether it has pub or media or both, doesn't matter. We want to make sure that we have the right updated URL connecting to Google Search Console. So this is being finicky. Let me just click on this. And as we can see here, sitemap is there. So what we've done is we set up our XML sitemap settings, and then we've come over to the page itself. We've generated a new URL. So let's refresh here. And if we needed to, we could go ahead and we could remove the URL that we had. So if you need to remove a URL, if you decide to create a new one for whatever purposes, you can click on the old one and just go to delete, and it'll delete it. So that's how you work with XML sitemaps on a Magento 2 instance. Hopefully you found this helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Brian Mull, over and out.